My guest today always wanted to be the best, the hippest player around. Well, he kind of succeeded with that. He was a bit of a late bloomer, but he overtook that later on. His playing is just so delicate, and he has influenced many players. Welcome to this episode, Alan Hinds.
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be here in my own house.
Yes.
With a stranger with all those weird gears that up here. No, it's all good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm okay. You know, I mean, I'm dealing with our politics, and my mother. I used to live in Alabama, and she used to get in fights because she really didn't like George Bush, and she'd get in fights at the local Walmart with the cashier. You know, I go, Mom, what are you doing? But I can understand that because I'm older now, and the politics and the lies and people who don't care about social networks. I'm pretty liberal, so I like a lot of the policies that, John Kennedy or Biden. There's my cat, by the way.
Hi.
Hey, Boo.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah, he hears people talking. He goes, I want to get in on this. So there's a certain part, my blood gets boiling hot when I hear guys, especially our new president, say something that's blatantly wrong. And the people who sit there and disagree with it, only probably for financial reasons. But I don't want to go down the political wormhole too much. But besides that, I'm doing good. I went to Japan a few months ago, which had some great concerts there. And before I went, I said I was going to, we can talk about this if you want to, but I went blind in my eye I had a detached retina. I had surgeries, but I don't want to give up yet. So before I went to Japan, I told myself I'm going to get as healthy as I can get. So I've been playing more tennis and working out for about 6 months now. So it just feels good to be able to fit them to my jeans and to be able to wear a t-shirt without being embarrassed. But, things are okay. I mean, they could be, the fires are gone. I mean, you're asking me at a time when a lot of weird things have happened. Yes. My friend Mike Miller just passed away, from a sudden heart attack. Boo, come on. Come on. Come on.
Hey.
It's my cat.
Hi. What's his or her name?
This is Boo.
Boo.
It's named after a character in To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh. Kind of a famous movie, or a famous book by Harper Lee. She's from Alabama, actually. But one of the characters' name was Boo Radley, and so this is Boo. And he's old, and he just lost his best friend. I had another cat who just died, so he's a little bit lonely and and needs some loving on a regular basis. And he's very talkative.
Hey, it's funny. I just only asked you how are you doing, and I think.
Oh, are we done? Are we done with it? I'm sorry. I had a lot of coffee, so I'm.
Hey, you said I'm trying to live as healthy as possible. How does that affect your playing? Or does that affect your playing? I don't know.
One thing that does affect my playing. I mean, I used to. We played the baked potato mostly, here, and we would always do shots of tequila and have a martini or whatever, and think that we were playing and opening up and getting looser. But lately, I've been drinking less and less, and I've realized that you can be just as creative, if not more, when you're sober. Mm-hmm. So, being healthy affecting your playing, I don't know. You generally have more energy, I think. If you look better, you feel better about yourself. And I have to say, when you're standing in front of an audience, there's some vanity there. You want to look as good as possible. So everything gets thrown in that big pot of like who you are and how you sound and what you look like. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
That's just some good sound bites.
Yeah, exactly.
In this episode.
But no, I guess it does. I don't think it must be a little more indirectly because that doesn't affect my love for music or how I practice or anything like that. I still practice like I eat. It's weird. I was thinking about this the other day. Yeah? It's like I don't force anything. I don't. If I eat really healthy, a salad for a couple of days, I'll want a steak the next day or a pizza, and I'll do that. That's part of the balance of life, I think. And the same way with practicing.
Sorry, your cat looks like he's going to attack me.
No, he's a baby. He's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he looks. Yeah, no,
he looked a bit angry.
He's just jealous that somebody else is taking the attention away.
No, I asked how does it affect your playing because I'm curious how in what way is your playing at your age right now still evolving? Right? You
Beg your pardon.
At in your late 20s,
in my mature days, if that ever happens. No, I think I think it's not a matter of what it's just my environment and being older. I value things differently than I used to. I used to be more impressed with certain things. I used to be impressed with the deepest harmony. I mean, which I still am. It's fascinating to listen to people like Alan Holdsworth or some stuff that's really deep harmonically. But then I find myself going back and listening to a Beatles song or a Joni Mitchell song or a Little Feat song or somebody who just writes good songs, and that, Jeff Buckley stuff, it takes me back to that kind of stuff. I mean, I always end up revolving back to something that's much more, organic, maybe is the right word for it, less cerebral, more of a feeling, soulful type of feeling.
But has that changed in the last?
Yeah,
I
think the older I've gotten, the more I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's a harder project when I give it to my students at Musicians Institute, where I still teach, or I do a lot of Zoom lessons. I'll say to them, well, if you want to write a song, if I were to give you a project for composing or writing, I would say, instead of giving you like 15 chords, try to write a good song with 4 chords. Mm-hmm. And that's actually more of a challenge. I mean, yeah, we can write a song with 4 chords, but to not make it corny or predictable. So I find beauty in like the simplicity of like hearing somebody like a Blake Mills or Michael Landau connect an F chord to a C chord gracefully. Mm-hmm. Or Bill Frisell is like great at that kind of stuff, that he can just take the simplest stuff and make it really super musical. And that's a challenge that I find more rewarding than doing something so mathematical that only a few can understand.
But is technical knowledge or also theoretical knowledge then sometimes a curse also as well? Because if you know you tend to go there, right?
Yeah, of course. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than when you can combine both. When you can combine the extreme harmonic depth and still have a certain musical that touches a lot of people. I think an example might be Pat Metheny. He's always been one of my favorite guys. I met him briefly, he was a little short with me, but that's another story. He was, I don't care. He's still, to me, musically, he appreciates the power of being able to connect with somebody with the fewest amount of notes, and I really appreciate it. There's a guy named John Leventhal who I like a lot, who's married to Roseanne Cash. He's a big producer. Same way. He knows just playing an acoustic guitar, and you think, oh, that's simple. He's just playing a G chord and a C chord. But the way he's doing it and his time feel and the touch. And that's why I like that. But Jeff Beck wasn't an Alan Holdsworth thinker, but he just could appeal to the deepest jazz guy. Mm-hmm. Wayne Shorter, a great saxophone player. He appealed to me not because of the difficult stuff he did, but because of how beautiful his phrasing. He can make like 2 notes feel in the right place at the right time. So that's kind of that's less of a mystery as far academically, but it's more of a mystery when and how you use it. And if you're a musician who's ever played much live, you know the feeling of when you get when you feed off the energy of the audience, when you're connecting, and that's the most gratifying feeling in the world. Mm-hmm. And I have a really good band right now, and it's, my music is still kind of in the middle there, where I don't know where to go with it, because it's not, Robin Ford billed himself as a blues guitar player years ago, and that put him in the whole new category of blues. Every blues festival in the world wanted Robin. A lot of guys, blues is easy to compartmentalize and to label. And fusion, my stuff's not really fusion like Scott Henderson stuff, because it's not that heady, not that deep harmonically. So what is it's instrumental pop? Well, it's not smooth jazz. That's instrumental jazz too, but my stuff's definitely not smooth jazz. It's not Kenny G, I hope. I mean, no offense, Kenny.
Hey, I want to go back. I said you were some sort of a late bloomer, right?
I didn't start. Yeah, I started late doing my own thing.
Like, because your first album was recorded when you were
already in my 40s,
late 40s, right?
Yeah. Well, I came out when I came to LA. I was like 28 years old in '85, and all that I was thinking about life was playing guitar. I was starting to be able to learn Larry Carlton solos, and I could figure out. I could figure out anything. I have a good ear, but I didn't really know what. Well, I wanted to know what they were thinking about. How did they do that? So that's why I studied music at MI and at Berkeley for a short time. And then at that time, everybody was just trying to be the best guitar player they could be. We were all chasing Scott Henderson and Alan Holdsworth and John Scofield and Mike Stern. Those guys were the guys we all tried to emulate or try to at least understand, and a goal was set there. But then afterwards, this was before smooth jazz really became Kenny G smooth jazz, and there was a lot of I auditioned for bands. I used to have auditions at Musicians Institute, and I got several of the auditions I went for. So I started touring with different bands, and one led to another. And before you knew it, there was like, I did, 15 years of playing other people's music, 20 years of doing tours, which is great. I'm grateful. Randy Crawford is a wonderful singer. She's great. But she took me all over the world, Australia, South Africa, all through Europe. But I was playing other people's music. And hers,
how did that feel at that time? Because did you realize like, okay, it's great and it's an opportunity, but at the same time, your own creative process got pushed back a bit. Right?
That's right. Well, not from Randy so much, because she's such a great artist, and her music, a lot of it was Joe Sample stuff. So some of it was pretty challenging to play. I mean, but the cool thing about Randy is that it was a way to travel the world for 20 years. And we played the best venues in Lugano, Switzerland. And she didn't like to travel and work. She liked to get there and like rest and get over jet lag and have some meals. So we had all these days off in Rome or wherever we were, so we had a great time with her. But what really discouraged me, what really pushed me towards, doing my own thing was do all the smooth jazz stuff. Cause I was pretty much every weekend, I was leaving LA and flying to New York or Chicago or Florida or Texas to do smooth jazz gigs with these saxophone players. And I was a sideman. I was hired with other guys, and sometimes I would like make fun of. I mean, we didn't really respect the music that much, and looking back on it, maybe I was a little bit arrogant or a little bit snobby because I was just going, man, this music sucks. I remember example of this. To any musician will I said I thought the flame was flashing, and most musicians will relate to this. I mean, it was like back then, people would print out the music charts on a computer, and some of the early charts were, chart writing. So this one guy gave me a song. It was like 4 pages of D minor, and in the middle of the third page, there was one measure that said B flat, A minor. This was like smooth jazz. Mm-hmm. I kind of like think about it like that. It was like, really? You need to write a chart for this? And it was just like, the music was mindless, and I was a bad team player. And I probably burnt some bridges in that world, which is okay, because I don't have a lot of respect for it. I don't listen to it at all. And I remember thinking to myself, God, I have some better songs than this, and progressions that I've worked on. So just out of frustration and wanting to see what I could do. I was thinking about, I had already been writing some songs for some smooth jazz people because it was so easy to do. I wrote a couple songs for Larry Carlton and Patty Austin, and a lot of saxophone players did Richard Elliott did 2 records of my compositions and his, And so I was thinking, I should either go commercial smooth jazz guy, or should I do what I really want to do, which is my fusion, my Southern influence and my jazz knowledge. And so I went the latter, and it paid off to the extent that I'm really proud of all my records.
But there's no way to not have done that, right? I mean, if you wouldn't have done that,
well, I know some people who have. Some people can compartmentalize, I think, and some people can partition their work, and they have a family, and they said, okay, I'm doing this stuff, and I'm going to stand on the edge of the stage and play, a minor pentatonic scale all night long, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to convince them that it's the greatest thing in the world. When they know in their heart, it's just a job. They're just BSing. Mm-hmm. They're not creating anything new. They're not offering. Or maybe they do. It probably happens that they do play something inspiring from time to time, but it's never their goal is to necessarily get anything from the deep wells of what art is. They're just running the scales and making a living at it, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. But I couldn't do that. So I've had more success in that I have a reputation as a writer and a guitar player than I do financial success. Cause I think I'm hard to, and this is the point I guess I was getting at in a long-winded way, is, I'm a hard sell because promoters don't know they said, what are you, fusion Scott Henderson guy? Are you a blues guy? Are you a smooth jazz guy? And I'm kind of neither of those. I'm kind of, and my band, when you come out on Thursday night, you'll see what I mean. The band is, really diverse too, but really deep harmonically when we want to be. And it's, and the combination is, well, it's always, the intention is always to get to that place where you're playing something inspired that the audience can relate with. Mm-hmm. And that means 2 notes played at the right time, then that's what it is. If it needs more complex stuff at the moment, then that's it too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Yeah. There's this connection you get when the whole thing that drives me is that, interaction with your audience when you play something that is hitting at a deep spot. That means something and I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but no. You just remind me of so I have some Danish students at Musicians Institute last quarter, and they came up and said, we've been listening to your stuff since we were kids in Copenhagen because their parents had gone to school with me and they had my records. So it was just like, and they said, we grew up with your music. And it's like, fuck, I'm old. I'm old, but it felt good. At the end of the day, whether I'm rich or poor, if I've affected somebody in a positive way, because that's how music means so much to me. Mm-hmm. The music that I listen to, the early Beatles stuff, or a guy named Willis Allen Ramsey is a great songwriter. There's like certain songs in my past, I listen to them and I can tear up. I get so emotional because it just means so much, and it represents. It's like a landscape of my youth. It's
a cliche to talk about the Beatles, maybe, but like I have 2 kids, and I when I play the Beatles to them, they instantly like it. Like, and that's the interesting thing about it, right? You can play it to,
and it never gets corny.
No,
you never listen to it. It's not like I'm trying to think of another example of other simple music that does get old really fast. There's other people who wrote, well, I don't want to name any names, but I mean like a bad TV commercial. Yes, it's catchy, and you can remember it. But is that is that good to remember a Wrigley's chewing gum commercial? I don't know, but that's the magical thing about the Beatles. I remember at the time when the Beatles came out, and 10, 20 years afterwards, historians or musicologists or whoever was saying, "Oh, that was just a passing fad. There will be another Beatles soon. It happens every 30 years, whatever." And it's a magical thing that is not going to happen again for who knows, maybe another lifetime.
I just mentioned before, like, okay, let's go back a bit. Then you said, okay, I moved to LA. I'd like to go a little further back in time, like when you first seriously started playing guitar, right?
Well, I started late there too. I mean, and that's what you asked me about. So by the time I realized what I wanted to do with my music, I was already like 45 years old, so I started kind of late. I wish I had started when I was 18. But I just didn't. I didn't know the value of it. I didn't realize I was just too fun. I was having too much fun just playing gigs and traveling and chasing girls and having fun, enjoying life.
But you picked up a guitar when you were around 16 for the first time, or
more like 17 or 18. It was kind of late.
That's quite
I actually
late,
listened to a lot of music before I was a big fan of Hendrix's and Beatles way before I even tried to play guitar.
So what happened in the first 18 years of your life? Or was it a big black hole, right? Or like...
Well, it was prison. No, I'm kidding. No, my family, we have 7 kids in the family. So music, I had older brothers and sisters, so they would always bring music in. And my family, we were one of the first ones who had a big stereo, big record player. I used to, when I was a little kid, I used to sit up cross-legged by myself until when everybody had gone to sleep listening to Rubber Soul by the Beatles or early stuff, or what else? There's a Henry Mancini record I really loved, like Henry Mancini's Greatest Hits. Which is like just really melodic, harmonically interesting stuff. So then I went to high school. I didn't think about guitar. There was one lying around our house, but I rarely. I knew a couple chords. I didn't really care that much about it. And then when the Beatles happened, and I do remember my little brother and I pretending like we were the Beatles. We had put the music on. we had like these fireplace tools. If we had a fireplace and like a shovel with a big brass handle on it, and we brought that up because it looked like a microphone. We'd sing into that, and I'd play a tennis racket or play my mom's violin, which we ruined, pretending like we were playing guitar. And then we would pretend like girls were chasing us. We would go running around the house. We were kids. So when
did you realize like I could actually pick up an instrument?
Probably high school, like probably 18 is right. Because in my senior year, I was playing because I could play a couple chords, and I was really into the Allman Brothers and Beatles. So I had one friend named Jack Fitzpatrick he just passed away last year, and he was one of my dearest friends. He played keyboards, and he was really the mentor he realized some talent in me, and we started playing together. We had a little band. He showed me how to sing harmony, to kind of taught me about music theory a little bit. He had perfect pitch, so he could hear the right voicings. He just was really he's a great soul. So that I took that for granted for years and years, and he and I played many bands back south. So by my senior year, in about 6 months' time, I picked up the guitar and I was starting to learn pentatonic licks, but that's kind of all you needed to know at the time to play. And then I got a job playing on the weekends with a couple bands, making $50 here, $20 there, nothing much at all.
Were you talented?
Was I talented?
Yeah. Or was it hard work from the get-go?
There's probably a natural talent. I could hear stuff really well. So I think, once again, I think I knew the I was talented enough that I had the feeling of people getting off on the connection, of playing well and people appreciating it and you getting back and it's a reciprocal that love that you get when you connect. So I'd already felt that a couple times and that was enough to drive me. And plus free beer. I mean, I was a kid. I was 18 years old, so I was playing all these clubs and down south. So then that one band led to another band and, you like everything else, it's a network of friends you make. And then they hear, hey, this kid, Alan Hinds is pretty good. Let's hire him. And, so I played with different, and we had, there was one time, a couple of bands I played in and at the time, you have to remember in the 70s and, when I got out of high school, we could play the vast differences, the kind of music we'd play a Steely Dan medley, we'd do a Chick Corea song, we'd do a Dixie Drake song, then we'd do a Beach Boys medley. Mm. It was so diverse, across every spectrum of music. Then we'd do a B.B. King song, then we'd do, we were able to throw all this kind of weird stuff. We'd do a King Crimson song, and people accepted it at the time because there was no everybody is so open and I got in one better band. All of a sudden I was making plenty of money where I could,
This was still in Alabama.
This was still
right?
in Alabama. So, and we got to be pretty famous. Just as famous as you can get on that local scene where we had a semi truck, like a huge truck and 4 guys setting up our stuff for us and sound men. And we just kind of show up with our parachute pants and our mullets and go on stage and life was great. But we were playing cover stuff, but it was a great learning experience for like 10 years. I was in clubs playing 4 hours a night, 6 days a week, for 10 years. That'll get you shut up. So and because the music was so varied, I learned how to play some reggae stuff. I learned how to play
That's
some
maybe what made the
R&B
Beatles
stuff.
Beatles also so good, right? That they made their miles on stage, right? In Hamburg.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, the chemistry they had with each other, they knew what to expect.
Yes.
That's really important. That's why I love the band I have now. They know what I'm going for. When I throw a chord chart in front of them, they know what I'm looking for. The stuff I listen to now is like Chris Whitley, a guitar player who died 20 years ago. Jeff Buckley, another friend. I like obscure songwriters. This guy named Randall Bramlett from Georgia, who's a really great songwriter. He plays with Steve Winwood and Bonnie Raitt. He's a piano player. He's got a great voice. So yeah, even though I still appreciate the blowing that you do and you have to think and the connection you have to make when you're playing instrumental music, to me still it's like my goal in life is to at some point write a song that has good lyrics, that means something, that tell a story, and also has good musical stuff happening behind it. Mm-hmm. That's a true combination of all perfect storm of all talents,
So at what point when you were in Alabama in that scene did you realize I need to get out of here, I want to make a step forward, so to say?
Well, like I was saying, at the time we were able to play we were able to mix up. You can't do that much anymore, but at the time we were able to mix up everything. We were able to do a Stevie Wonder song, then a Chick Corea song. So I was chasing all these guitar players. I remember I went up to Atlanta to see George Harrison, George Harrison. And in the band, he had the Yellow Jackets, Robin Ford. And back then they would give you a big flyer of all the music. You could look through and see the biography of all the different musicians. And it was Robin Ford and LA Express was a rhythm section out here that was touring with George Harrison. So I remember going, I've never heard guitar played like this before. The guy had 335, little Mesa Boogie amp, and I remember I was positioned the guitar really stood out. So that's when I kind of started getting more serious. So I started buying every record album I would buy if it had Robin's name on it or Larry Carlton's name or Jay Graydon's name, or I eventually got into Schofield back in Alabama too. His phrasing is just, incredible. So then, we were reading Guitar Player Magazine was the Bible. Everybody looked at it. Tommy Tedesco had his article in the back where he talked about his studio stuff. And I was going, wow, cool. What a life that must be like to play studio stuff every day. Or how do you, and so I was able to copy the stuff that these guys were playing with Joni Mitchell or playing behind Steely Dan, but I didn't know exactly why. So I wanted to know why. So we actually saved up some money. My mom helped me go to Berkeley for 1 quarter in 78. So then I came back and people were still accepting the fact that you could play a Chick Corea song live. They go, oh, that's a cool song. They didn't care if it was something they hadn't heard on the radio. So, that's when I started really getting more serious about guitar and a little more serious. And a few years later, I entered a competition, Guitar Player Magazine. Hey, boo. A guitar player had a Larry Carlton scholarship. They were giving out scholarships, a B.B. King scholarship to a blues guy, Eddie Van Halen scholarship. Went to my friend Nick Nolan, and I won the Larry Carlton scholarship. So I got free school at MI, which at the time I get this letter in the mail. I remember the day I went to the mailbox. I remember the way it was about to storm, and it said, "Congratulations, you're the winner of the Larry Carlton scholarship." And it was like, to me, it was a huge deal, you know, not a big deal really, because I don't think Larry Carlton even listened to my stuff, but I won Larry Carlton stuff. So I got free school, which at the time was like, they said worth $2,400. That's how much this year of school was back then. $2,400 for a whole year at MI. So
that's about a Zoom lesson from you now, right?
Yeah, not quite, but I'm getting there. So I didn't have any money. My family had no money. We were very poor. So my brother who now lives in San Diego, said he would help me out. So he ended up sending me rent money every month. And so the year I went to school, he kind of supported me because he just believed in what I was trying to do. So,
but that was a life-changing moment.
That was a life-changing moment, because then I realized, wow, you know, and then when I got to LA, I'm not shy. I'm pretty extroverted. So, and I'm just using this for an example. When I was at school, Jeff Buckley was a friend of mine, and he was very shy. Like, he would never go in Scott Henderson's room and play with him. He was scared of Scott, because Scott was very brutal. You know, Scott Henderson, the guitar player.
I'm talking to him Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Upcoming Sunday, yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Tell him I said hi. But he would say, he has a way of teaching where it's kind of funny. And it's kind of like some teachers do, where they kind of like to, like Joe Pass was like this a little bit. Scott would listen to you play, and if you were making a mistake, he'd go, whoops, nope, that's the wrong note. Oh, nope. He does it out loud. Yeah. And while you're playing, it can be very intimidating. He never did that with me. He liked the way I played right off the bat, and we always got along. But I saw him do it to other students, and that's why Jeff Buckley was scared of him. I remember there's when Jeff...
That could work for some people,
sure,
right?
It could probably motivate people.
But
maybe
some people can.
But I think he did. You know, he didn't mean to be mean. He was just trying to make it fun. You know, make it kind of. Some people would crush too. You know, depending if you have a fragile ego. But I remember we went when they had graduations every 6 months at Musicians Institute. Jeff Buckley played up at this with his trio. This is before he was Jeff Buckley singer.
Yeah.
And he was trying to be a fusion guy. And he did a version of D flat waltz, Weather Report song, and he played all the Joe Zawinul stab parts on guitar, slapping harmonics.
Oh wow.
And it was fucking great. Excuse my language. And I remember I was in the audience with Scott, because Scott and I were already good friends by this point. And Scott goes, "Who is this guy? How come he never came in my room?" You know.
Wow. So he didn't remember him.
He
didn't remember him.
He didn't remember. Well, Jeff never went in his room.
Oh, he didn't.
So he was like freaking out, going, "Why didn't this guy's so good? How come he never came in my room?" And we all kind of said, "Because you're a jerk, Scott. Because you're mean." But so. What was my point? What were we talking about? So,
going to LA.
Yeah, going to LA. So it was really exciting to be here then, like, before climate change and that's before the big fire. No, but back then, MI was a real special school then. The reason it was, what set it apart from every other school in the world was that it was such a concentration of great guitar players. I mean, I'd walk down the hallway and literally, in any given day, there'd be Jennifer Batten, Scott Henderson, Frank Gambale, Joe Pass, Robin Ford. I mean, it was just like, you know, and you could skip classes and go sit with them and talk to them and see what their life's about, like we were doing here. I could talk to Robin. Robin and I are still good friends. We're friends. We talk every now and then. He wrote me like this morning about Mike Miller's passing. But so that kind of stuff was really life changing. And then I realized at some point that I could hold my own. You know, I started auditioning with some bands and got some gigs, and realized that it wasn't such a mystery after all, and that I was, you know, at least good enough to compete. Maybe I guess if it's a competition at all, you know what I mean?
I'm curious, because you said I'm quite an outgoing personality, right? And you mentioned Jeff Buckley now.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. I mean, whether you ever get to know me is another thing. But that's what I want to ask, because that's where I'm curious, because you're outgoing. But I also have the feeling that what's underneath, right? I mean, maybe nothing.
No, but like, is that also like, how should I ask this? Like, sometimes if you, for instance, are an easy talker, then it's also a way of maybe putting the rest in the shadows.
I see what you're saying. Sure.
Is that the case or not? Maybe.
Well, I think everybody, it's a survival tool.
Yeah.
That maybe to cover up some other depression or thoughts or moods or feelings. You know, you you present yourself in a certain way. I think everybody does that to some extent, but you put on the face that you want to put on, and that means you learn, you understand what empathy is or what a sense of humor is or whatever. And that becomes who your personality is, I mean, I'm trying to think of, yes, Boo, you know all about this. So yeah, I'm sure we all have our little, dark side that.
But has that helped you? That's maybe what I want to ask.
I think it should be anyway. It should be a life ambition for anybody to try to become a better person. And that's what it kind of comes down to. We have these thoughts. You go, why did I do that? So it's kind of like a lot of it's reverse engineering, like you're trying, a lot of times, even like in lessons when I'm trying to explain theory or some kind of scales to a student, sometimes I have to go back and, why do I think this way? Why do I do this way? And it's the same way with your personality and relationships. I mean, I'm lucky I have a lot of friends, and I have some friends that are really close friends who know me really well. Like when I had my depression, my time a few years ago with all the things that happened to me, they could see that I was a little bit wobbly, and they kind of came to my rescue. But I think everybody's that way. I think everybody has and you might have some little, I don't know, fetishes or little quirks or things you like on the side, or whatever. And that's all okay, as long as it doesn't harm anybody else, I mean, I'm trying to think if I have any.
Yeah, because you mentioned Jeff Buckley, he was so shy, right? And I can imagine maybe in some way it helped him.
Responsible for his art.
Yeah, he was probably able to go very deep within himself, right?
He was a deep guy. I mean, he had a great sense of humor. That's what we all go along, because we all both like Led Zeppelin a lot, which you can actually hear in his music. You can hear a lot of my music in a different way. I like to layer guitar parts, so I also have like some other 4 guitar parts going on, which is, I'm sure I got that. Well, because I can't play keyboards, but also because I got that from listening to Led Zeppelin. But yeah, I'm sure that's true with a lot of artists. I mean, they're probably very, I'm trying to think of another example. I met Jeff Beck once, and he was really outward. He was very extroverted, but so maybe, I don't know. Everyone's different, It all manifests itself differently. I think whatever your inner struggles are, you either learn to control them in a good way or you don't control them,
So, how does music help you to because you mentioned I had a rough period in my life.
Yeah.
You told me before this interview started you lost your daughter to 2016, right? Which is, I can imagine, on an emotional level, something you probably have felt things you never felt before, right? And
sure.
Were you able to canalize it in a way in music as well?
Well, sorrow and depression definitely push you in a certain direction. As far as, what I tried to do. I mean, like I said, I had really great friends that helped me out a whole lot. That was a big thing. But I realized that it was I didn't mind talking about it because it was kind of good therapy. And then I realized in the big picture thing, I mean, it's pretty selfish of me to get totally consumed with my own struggles when there's so much. I have so many friends that have been through worse. I had a friend call me actually right after my daughter died, and she goes, I lost 2 of my daughters in a car wreck. Can you imagine that? It's like gone like that. So then I realized, I should just be thankful for what I do have. And the good friends, the music that I have, I don't dwell on it. It's inevitable that you're going to be depressed about stuff like that. And you wonder why, and could I have done something different? And all this stuff comes into play. But, you still got to make the best of what you got now. But it does affect you. I'm sure it does.
Because music is about emotion.
Yeah,
right? And
I know.
If you tap into this new.
Well, there's a song I wrote for my mother. I know there's a song I wrote for my mom called Waltz for Tina that sometimes I would tear up when I was playing live, just because I'd said, "Oh, this is somewhere deep inside." I was going, "This song was written for her," and we were pretty close. And sometimes, and that song is still, we do it on our show live because it's a really fun song to play. Fun song. So yeah, there's certain songs that certain sections I write them, and if they're emotive, if they cause you to feel melancholy or whatever, that was the intent. Cause that's pretty much where it was coming from. If that makes sense.
Yes. So your latest album is called The Good Fight.
Yeah.
Is that title and also that song, does it have to do with this story? Yeah.
Of course. And actually this is, so we recorded the record in 2019, actually.
Already done.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I had a friend of mine named Jay Marciano, who is the CEO of AEG, a huge promotional company like Live Nation. They promote Taylor Swift and Elton John and the Stones. He was a big fan of mine, so he used to come out and he said, "Look, I want to help you with your next record." So he did. He paid for everything. Everything. We went to East West Studios. I think the sound on the record the CD is better than anything I've done before, just tonally. Because we had the money to record it correctly.
The sound is just mind blowing, man.
Yeah, we had a really good mixer and everything, and the engineer, everybody was great. So, we did that, and then COVID hit, and so he said, "Look, let's not do anything with it until COVID is completely over." So it was like 2 years, and then we started looking for a record label, because he wanted me to get some kind of label, and he doesn't really know who to call, and I had connections to Gino Vanelli and my friend T. Saraborn, who Pat Metheny wrote the Saraborn song for, and they both helped me get this record deal on a label, part of the Universal Music Group, and I was all excited. So for a minute there, I had a record deal, and so after 6 months of nothing, not hearing anything, because I couldn't release it myself, the president called me and says, "Alan, you're a great guitar player, but there's nothing on here I can put on the radio. I need something for the radio." I was like, "Oh no!" So Jay and I had a little meeting. My money guy Jay Marciano, and we said, let's trust the system. Let's try. So they gave me a really small budget. I ended up paying out of my pocket, but we went back in the studio and recorded like 3 songs. One I wrote that morning on a napkin before I went in, and the other 2 songs were covers. Change the World, which never came out, and a instrumental version of Michael McDonald's that's the name of the song. I can't remember. Yeah, we found some old commercial stuff and said, let's redo it instrumentally. I keep forgetting. So I did it instrumentally. And all of a sudden I was on the radio. The record company was paying for promotional guys, and they were getting me. I was like, it wasn't number 1, but it was getting up there on the smooth jazz charts. And my friends back in Alabama and Florida were sending me pictures of their car display with my picture on there. It's Alan Hinds, and XM. So I was thinking, oh, cool, I'll make some money in a few months, from all the airplay. And it turns out there's a small clause in my contract, which I didn't read. And actually, I'm not a legal guy. I sent my contract out to a few different people, and they said, yeah, it's a standard contract. So I just kind of went with it. But it said that I wouldn't make any money until it recouped. So they had to make the money. I was thinking, money back from what? We made the record before he gave it to them. But anyway, whatever. I mean, they were trying to make some money with it. They were trying to make me commercials. So it's not really anybody's fault. That's just the way the system works. But the drag was that I was locked into that contract, and I couldn't release it on my own.
That must have been really frustrating.
It was frustrating because I couldn't
the
even,
album is so.
I couldn't even put it on CD Baby or anything.
Because it's your best work, right?
Well,
do you agree?
I don't know. I mean, I have my favorites in the past, the songs we do, but I'm happy with it. It's a good. All records are kind of a little zeitgeist, a little slice of time. But yeah, I was proud of the record. There's some really great playing performances on there. I think there's some good songs. Anyway, so after about a year of not receiving any money and trying to push both songs or 2 of the songs that I did for them, I said, Jay, I kind of want to get out of this deal. They want me to be something that I'm not. They want me to be, and they would send me examples of other people. And these are, once again, it was more about entertainment. It was more about, getting out dancing on the stage and performing and appealing to the marketplace that I really don't care. Most of the people who, in my experience, a lot of people who appreciate a lot of the smooth jazz, they're not really musical lovers. I mean, it's a Vegas act to them. It's like, it's a show, it's entertainment. Mm-hmm. Music is almost like secondary. So I just didn't want, I know that scene. Having done that before, the smooth jazz scene, I just didn't want to be part of that scene because I didn't really philosophically really agree with a lot of those people in smooth jazz world. That's just the way it is. And so Jay called him up and we got out of I signed the contract releasing my CD back to me. They kept the commercial songs, so they're probably still on the radio someplace that I'll never get paid for. Those guys they were nice enough to me. It's a business, and that's what they do. And that's what I didn't want to do. So, so just in the last few months, I was able to release the record myself and release it. I still don't have, distribution anywhere. Jimmy Haslip is trying to, the bass player of the Yellow Jackets is trying to,
saw him with Osnoy a couple of months ago.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. He's trying to help me get a record deal like in Europe and get distribution of some sort, but so far nobody's really.
If you, because you're teaching at the Musicians Institute, if you compare, how the school is built now, to when you were there, are players being made more aware of the business side of it all?
Probably.
Than before?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't really know I'm not hands on that. I just kind of go in for my couple of days and I get out of there. I love teaching. I don't like a lot of the politics of it, but I think, I know that for a fact the guitar enrollment is way down. I mean, compared to what it was all guitar players for many years. It was guitar players, keyboards, and singers. And now I think the biggest program at the school is I'm trying to remember the name. It's like something like business, something or other, or like
because the guitar players nowadays they become content creators, right?
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's more about that than how to market whatever you do. That's the thing that I think they concentrate on. That's the biggest class there. It's not really guitar players anymore or bass players. It might be 2 or 3 bass players, I think, in the school, which is too bad. But MI tried to keep current with the trends, which I think at the time they thought it seemed more relevant. Like in '90s when all the hair bands came out and all the shredders, they said, okay, we'll make a shredding class. We'll make and guys were coming to school in makeup, wearing their ready for stage and ready to play. And I guess that's all important too. But, in the long run, I think the school lost its identity of what it was. I mean, it's still, Scott's still there and I'm still there and there's still some good stuff there. And I love the students there. The students are it's fascinating to me to meet, an 18-year-old student from China who's like completely different world than I know. It's 2 generations later and it's like in a different side of the planet and they're totally beautiful and they're open and they're smart and they work hard and they appreciate the good stuff. That gives me faith for the future of the world, especially after the elections today.
Okay. Politics, pause.
Yeah,
no, I'm not going to go there. About the future, because in another interview you mentioned I might want to go back to Alabama at one point, live in the countryside. Because LA can be, it can be inspiring, I can imagine, but also demanding in a way, I suppose, right?
Oh, I like it here. I think I don't know if LA is the best city to grow old in. I mean, if you have like tons of money, you can shelter yourself off. You can live anywhere. But and LA is fun for the diversity. But as far as when you get older, I'm kind of thinking about when I wake up, I want to go play a little tennis. That's what I do. I play a lot of tennis still. So, but I kind of want to just sit around and play guitar on my porch. Yeah. It's kind of, it sounds like a good plan to me.
Are you really going to do that? Is that a concrete plan or?
I don't know. I mean, if I had enough money, I'd probably buy a house there and keep this house here. That would be nice. But right now it's kind of a pipe. I'm still young. I'm only 68.
You seem really, really young. No, I'm not kidding, dude.
Like an immature kid, right? Well, I mean, I don't want to give up yet. And, you got to try a little harder to keep in shape. I think when you get older, and keep healthier. But it's okay because the benefits are good. I mean, I still like to play tennis every day and I still, but the older you get, the fact that I've done so many CDs, it's like, I feel like, okay, I don't know if I need to compete anymore. I'm not really trying so hard to be this or that. I'm just going to be who I am. Thank God I have a good enough reputation or enough, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. I have enough platform. I have enough, I've done enough stuff where I can kind of, I don't feel so competitive. I still want to write music and I still want to play guitar live because I love doing that more than anything.
That might be a good thing, right? Not to be because competition, you're comparing yourself to other people as opposed to just being you, right? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. And I've actually, that's a good thing about doing your own music is like I feel less competitive because I feel like I'm, that nobody can do me better than me. So it's kind of cool. There's nobody else doing an Alan Hinds show out there, So I don't feel like there's, so that's a kind of a liberating thing about doing your own music too, which I enjoyed over the years, and been lucky, that I had the platform of teaching at Musicians Institute, which got me introduced to a lot of people around the world. And, doing my own CDs have had, some success in the fusion world, and I have respect from a lot of good players. So, I feel pretty good with where I'm at. I'm ready to do a new CD because the last one was 2020 when we finished it. So it's been 5 years now. So,
have you written stuff?
I've got a lot of new stuff. I'm just trying to piece it together. Nothing's ready to be listened to yet. So don't ask me that.
When can I listen to it? Hey, Alan, it was a joy talking to you.
Cool.
You're probably going to play guitar later on, so I'm really thrilled.
Okay.
You asked me before this, can I have the guitar in hand? But
because when I fiddle, it's if there's a phone in front of me, I'm going to be checking my messages, and if there's a guitar in front of me, I'm going to be want to play my guitar. Well, I do that a lot when I'm giving lessons. I'm explaining stuff, but I'm kind of always noodling in the background. I noodle with the best of them.
Yay for noodling. Thank you so much, Alan Hinds. For
nice to meet you, and say hello to all my friends in Holland. I miss it over there.
Will do.
I want to get back there hopefully soon.
Hey, and listeners also, thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much.